Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of elPablo FC. And today we're going to be doing the match week 7 preview of the Premier League, and it's going to be a weekend of crucial clashes, basically crucial clashes, left, right, and center, with teams, pairing up against each other. And we should expect some banana peel moments like we had last week. It was last week was the banana peel moment for Crystal Palace to beat Liverpool and all of that. So there is a question. Probably could it be crisis for some teams like Liverpool, catastrophe for some teams like Manchester United, or the unthinkable upset that we could see when Chelsea face Liverpool? But we will talk about it. This isn't just another Premier League. So stop what you're doing, grab some popcorn, and let's analyze each game as we go. This isn't just another Premier League weekend. This is match week 7, the final chaotic, high-stakes spirit before the October international break. And it's something, that sets us up to be one of the most volatile match weeks we've seen in years. On one side of the ledger, you have, league leaders Liverpool riding high, but heading into Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea, the Chelsea side that is experiencing a catastrophic biblical defensive crisis. And we're talking injuries, suspension, and evil manager Enzo Maresca, who has run out of senior centre backs. On the other side, Manchester United, you know, uh, on the other side, Manchester United, 7th place Man City, may also lead the league in goals scored. But it's their crosstown rivals, United, who are staring into the abyss of a full-blown managerial crisis. So Man United are at home at home to Sunderland, the newly promoted Black Cats, who are somehow, sitting 5th in the Premier League table. Now, that's right. Sunderland, 9 places higher than Manchester United. That is absolutely embarrassing to know, but it is what it is. The weekend is a psychological and tactical referendum, and it is where title credentials are cemented, where, relegation despair becomes, irreversible, and where the first manager to be sacked the first manager of the season might just pack his bags, basically. This is a deep dive into the 10 fixtures that will define, this autumn. Let's get into it straight up. So the first part is the landscape, basically. The landscape, surprises, and structural flaws. We've had 6 weeks already in the 25-26 season. And it has been defined by 2 major narratives. I mean, the relentless pressure of the top and the complete structural failure at the bottom. Liverpool leads the charge with 15 points, narrowly holding a 2-point lead over a clinical Arsenal side. But look closer at the top of the 5, and we have 2 major shocks. We have Crystal Palace, who are sitting 3rd, underpinned by an extraordinary 6-match unbeaten run and 18 matches, or 19 now, because they won yesterday, or won today, yesterday as at the time of watching. So 19-match unbeaten run. That suggests that Oliver Glasner has built something genuinely resilient. Despite the fact that they lost the Brentford to Arsenal, they still continued in their resilience. And then there's Sunderland, newly promoted side, sitting 5th with 11 points and riding the wave of unexpected momentum that simply defies Premier League logic. Their manager, Regis Le Bris, has even earned a nomination for Manager of the Month. And this is a hell of a story. I mean, we'll come back to when we talk about, the trip to Old Trafford. We'll talk about it. But now let's look at the bottom. It's the genuine disaster zone. I mean, the pressure is mounting on 3 clubs in particular, with West Ham United, Burnley, and Wolves languishing at the bottom. West Ham United with new manager Nuno Espirito Santo, and Burnley, both on 4 points. But the true statistical outlier is Wolverhampton Wanderers, anchored dead last in 20th. with just one single point. They have the joint longest winless run and the longest losing run of 5 matches. Their situation is desperate and their data tells a chilling story. So if we're going to talk about the statistics and statistical battlegrounds and the Wolves paradox, we'll talk about, looking at the table. We don't just look at just the table, we look at the tactical IDs that numbers reveal. I mean, after 6 games, the key performance indicators expose structural truths about every club. For offensive firepower, nobody is scoring more than Man City, who lead the league with 14 goals, yet they sit surprisingly low in 7th with 10 points. This is the elite inconsistency paradox that we have with Manchester City. The high volume isn't translating to consistent victories, indicating problems with defensive solidity or an inability to actually close out games that they should dominate. They actually drew a game in the midweek in the Champions League, and basically it shows that they're still lacking some consistencies. They're still lacking consistency, elite consistency in games, not just in the league but also in the Champions League. And then there's the control war. At the top of the passing charts, we find Chelsea and Liverpool tied with complete passes with around 3,229 each, and this confirms their tactical DNA, and it is rooted in technical control and ball circulation. The implications of their fixture on Saturday are massive. It's going to be an intense tactical midfield chess match, but one team is going into into that match with their pieces broken. So we have to think about it from that perspective. And then we go to the Wolves paradox. This is the most alarming stat in the Premier League. Wolverhampton Wanderers lead the entire league in tackles won with 80. And that is about that for a second, if you think about it. They're constantly winning the ball, yet they are dead last in the league. With a league worst minus 9 goal difference. This ain't evidence of a great high press. It's an evidence of a defense that is constantly being breached and forced into last-ditch recovery efforts. Now, the individual defensive aggression, if you look at it, is falling and it's failing to translate into collective security. I mean, manager Vitor Pereira, needs to realize that their problem isn't ball winning. It's 2 seconds after they win the ball, the transition, what happens next when they're with the ball. It's not all about, in possession. It's not all about formation. It's not all about style of play or shape. It's all about what you do after you've won the ball. Then in contrast, we have Burnley, who leads the league in blocks with 37, a signature of a dedicated deep lying defensive system, focused on protecting the penalty box. They know exactly who they are, unlike Wolves, who are statistically confused. So if we break down into, the Match Week 7 fixture and break it down step by step, we start through all 10 fixtures, basically analyzing the narrative. We'll talk about the team news and the tactical battlegrounds that will go on for each match. So if we're to go through this, we'll start with Bournemouth versus Fulham. It's a mid-table crucible that we can talk about that happens on Friday, basically. This match, just to have a look quickly at what happens on Friday before. So on Friday, Bournemouth face Fulham, and it takes place at 7 p.m. But we will observe, basically, and we will give you the breakdown. So Bournemouth face Fulham, the mid-table crucible. Bournemouth are the surprise occupants of the top 6, and this is their true test of sustainability. They face a solid mid-table Fulham side. The key team news for the Cherries is that they are without right back Adam Smith and striker Enes Unal due to a serious injury. Now, the match will be defined by the central midfield duel. Bournemouth's success relies basically on their tireless ball winning, especially of Tyler Adams, and the progressive distribution of Alex Scott. They have to beat Fulham's double pivot of Sanderberg and Sasha Lukic. If Iraiola's system can overcome the key personnel absences, then it proves his cohesive tactical approach, and it shows that it is robust enough to survive the grind of the Premier League season. So, Bournemouth, if they can rely on their key player in Antoine Semenyo to deliver them again, as he is the highest goal scoring player in the Bournemouth side, then we have the game on our hands. Then we go over to Leeds, that takes place on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. UK time. This early kickoff actually sees Leeds basically attempt to preserve their unbeaten home record at Elland Road against Spurs, basically. So it's the Leeds versus Tottenham Hotspur, which is kind of like a psychological warfare. You know, we have Spurs who have demonstrated an incredible, mental fortitude, securing late equalizers in their last two matches, including the 94th minute strike against Wolves. Crucially for Spurs, Christian Romero returns to stabilize the defense alongside Mickey van der Ven. Manager Thomas Frank is prioritizing long-term fitness, which is a sign of a club preparing for a full Champions League challenge. Leeds having just considered the 93rd minute equalizer themselves, are facing a psychological test as much as a tactical one. They must maintain the high energy, pressing high right up until the final whistle, knowing that Spurs have the DNA of the late drama, especially if we take a reflection to the last two games that they've played. And then the next one, we go to Arsenal. Arsenal play on Saturday again, another one immediately after that 4:30 that early kickoff. We have Arsenal, the London derby, Arsenal versus West Ham, which is kind of overcoming such a kind of like what you call a hoodoo, right? The London derby is critical for Arsenal to maintain pressure on Liverpool. They are on a 3-match winning streak across all competitions, and they host a struggling West Ham side, 19th in the table, adjusting to life under new manager Nuno Espirito Santo. Now, Arsenal's depth is being tested with long-term knee injuries to Noni Madueke, Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Jesus. But the true story here is a psychological one. Arsenal lost their last two home fixtures against West Ham without scoring. Manager Mikel Arteta must also ensure that the midfield axis of Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi enforces absolute control. Knowing Arsenal, and considering the last game they played against Olympiacos, he could go with Zubimendi and Mikel Merino, but we shall see. Rice was rested in the midweek, so there's also a chance he could still play too, though. So he could go with Zubimendi, Rice, and Mikel Merino. They need superior offensive structure and the creativity of Martin Odegaard if he starts to break down, because he had a good game in the midweek. If he starts to break down West Ham's low block and finally conquer the Emirates hoodoo. Basically, the next game we have, which happens around the same time as the Arsenal one, is Manchester United at Old Trafford versus Sunderland. And this is kind of like the Amorim referendum. So this happens on Saturday, same time as Arsenal, the highest leverage moment of the weekend. Sunderland, sitting 5th and riding high, visits Old Trafford to face a languishing Manchester United side with inconsistent form. History says United win, but Sunderland has only won one of their last 31 trips to the Theatre of Dreams. But modern form is a powerful thing, and United gets a massive boost. With the return of Casemiro from suspension, a vital shield for a defense still missing Lisandro Martinez. This match is a referendum on Amorim's tenure. A home loss to a promoted side and an even an informed one will turn up the heat on the manager to intolerable levels. The tactical duels will be between the stability Casemiro provides with the quality of Sunderland's captain Granit Xhaka, who has been instrumental in setting up the Black Cats' recent attacks. He has 3 assists to go with that. Then we look for Bruno Fernandes, who loves playing promoted sides to be the difference maker in this one if he can bypass Granit Xhaka. Now we've talked about 4 games. We've done Bournemouth, Fulham. My prediction for that one probably going to end a 1-1 draw. Fulham are good at drawing. Bournemouth are good at coming back. Leeds versus Tottenham. It looks like Tottenham is going to edge this one 2-1, but we shall see. Leeds can shock Tottenham because Tottenham also drew over in the week, so they could be trying to bounce back. And Leeds also drew late winner, so there's a chance that Leeds will be wary of Tottenham Hotspur. Then the next one is Arsenal West Ham. Arsenal will edge this one 3-1. Well, Nuno Espirito Santo could shock Arsenal, so let's say no, instead of 3-1 we'll go 2-2. Then Manchester United versus Sunderland. Man United could edge this one with a 2-0 victory. I say edge because it's going to be a hard-fought one because of the Amorim referendum. And then we go to the big one of the weekend, which is Chelsea versus Chelsea versus Liverpool. This is what we're going to call the defensive catastrophe. Saturday, October 4th, same thing as well. The match of the week, but dramatically lopsided. Liverpool comes in first, but has shown minor cracks, obviously, for the last 9 games, you could say. Chelsea, meanwhile, is facing a defensive catastrophe, basically. Trevor Chalobah is suspended, and the key defenders, Tosin and Colwell, are injured. Then the next one we'll be talking about, basically, the next thing we're talking about in the aspect of this game is the fact that this leaves manager Maresca with only Badiashile and Jorel Hato as senior centre-back options. This personnel emergency basically fundamentally compromises Chelsea's system, no matter how good they are at ball control. Basically, the way they control the ball. All of the team's statistical excellence in technical passing is actually devalued because basically Liverpool's high press knows exactly where the weak spot is, and this is a survival test for the host. And Liverpool manager Arne Slot must be ruthless in exploring this single obvious tactical limitation. Anything less than 3 points for Liverpool will feel like a failure of execution. What do you guys think about the score? What do you guys think about the predicted score line? What do you guys think about how the game is going to pan out? Who's going to win? My prediction for that game, Chelsea-Liverpool, is 2-1 Liverpool win. Shock Chelsea again, and they'll continue, from where they stopped, because obviously their defense is superior, and this will kind of give Liverpool a lifeline. Then we move on to the next one that happens on Sunday. The Chelsea-Liverpool game wraps up the Saturday games. And then on Sunday, Aston Villa face Burnley. That's Emery's pragmatism. On Sunday, 5th of October, Aston Villa, they finally found some stability going on an impressive 3-match winning run across all competitions with 3 consecutive clean sheets. They host a struggling Burnley side that, despite their position, leads the league in blocks, indicative of their deep-lying defensive identity, as we said earlier at the beginning of the show. Despite the absence of Yuri Tillemans and Tyrone Mings, Villa's success is a powerful indicator that Unai Emery has had an effect on the team, which brings about the Unai Emery effect, right? He has prioritized collective organizations over individual brilliance, allowing Villa to minimize risks during a difficult period. Villa will also control possession and attempt to break down the deep sitting Burnley block, aiming for their first back-to-back Premier League wins since the back end of last season. So then if we go on to Everton versus... So my prediction for Villa versus Burnley is Villa win 2-1 again, multiple goals. Villa will continue their winning run depending on how Burnley defend. It could still end in a draw, but I'll go with a 2-1 win for Villa. Then Everton versus Crystal Palace. The power of momentum. Both teams they were good. They're good. They are in good form this season with key players in the Everton side. this happens on Sunday as well. Crystal Palace is enjoying a phenomenal start. Currently sitting third, anchored by extraordinary 20-game unbeaten run across all competitions. I said 19, but it's 20 actually, because they beat Liverpool 19 and they won their European game in the Europa League, and that makes it 20. That's not a typo. 20 games. Everton enters this fixture winless in their last 3 league matches. So Palace's lengthy unbeaten streak screams tactical cohesion and a high morale. The team, you can see the team, the way how cohesive they are. Their stats actually show high energy too, especially second in the league in tackles won. This suggests that they will actually aggressively disrupt Everton's build-up. Everton must establish authority early at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, seeing as their home, allowing for the league's most confident collective unit to dictate the pace. Will almost certainly result in the continuation of Everton's recent winless form. Key players for them will be Grealish for Everton, and then for Crystal Palace, I mean the whole team basically, even Mateta, to continue his goal scoring form and stuff. My prediction for this one will be a Crystal Palace win 2-0, and then Everton continue their winless run. Everton could shock. Grealish could affect the game, but Crystal Palace had a very good defensive unit as well. So 2-0, yeah, and they continue their unbeaten run to make it 21. Then we have Newcastle. Newcastle face Nottingham Forest, and this is clean sheet king. That's what we'll call this one, the clean sheet king. A crucial bottom half fixture for two teams desperate to create separation from the relegation dogfight. Newcastle currently 15th, just 1 point ahead of Nottingham Forest. Now, the market heavily favors Newcastle. Heavily favors a Newcastle victory, expecting a high scoring game for Newcastle, an ambitious club. The pressure is on to deliver a commanding performance against a lower table rival. Now, the success is likely tied to a target man, William Osula, or probably one who has been scoring for the last 3 games, Nick Votamade. But underpinning their defense is goalkeeper Nick Pope, who currently leads the entire Premier League in clean sheets with 4. If Newcastle fails to convert their expected dominance into a convincing win, it will point to an underlying structural inefficiency that is preventing the club from capitalizing on significant investment. Now, we look at the history of Nottingham Forest. They lost today, as of the time of recording. They lost in the Europa League. The Europa League or Europa Conference League. I think they lost, and that's Ange Postecoglou losing. So we could tell that there is something really, like they haven't really won any game, and the team isn't cohesive enough ever since they sacked Nuno Espirito Santo. So I see Newcastle edging this one with a 1-0 win. But there is a chance for Newcastle to add one more. But Nick Votamade, who seems to always score in the first half, could score in this one. Then we have almost the last one. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Brighton and Hove Albion. Trying to get my words out. This is more of a transition drama going on here. A true crisis fixture with Wolves dead last with 1 point, desperately searching for a win against a steady mid-table Brighton side. So we come back to the Wolves paradox again. They lead the league in tackles won against a possession-heavy side like Brighton. The immediate phase after the tackle is paramount for Wolves. That is the transition. Now, their current negative goal difference shows that they fail to transition quickly into a secure position or counterattack. For Wolves to win, they must demonstrate tactical speed and clinical efficiency in moving the ball forward immediately after regaining possession, or their situation will only get worse. Now, what do you think about this one? It smells of a draw, but I think that Brighton are going to win because Brighton always find a way to win under Fabian Hostler, even though they've not really had they've had a mixed start to the season. So, which brings me to the last game of the Premier League weekend, right? First, that's Brentford versus Manchester City. The elite inconsistency. That is what we're going to talk about. For this one, in as much as We'll talk about prediction. Now, Man City find themselves surprisingly low in 7th. Despite leading the league in goals scored, they visit Brentford, who are riding high after an impressive 3-1 victory over Manchester United. How interesting would it be that Brentford faced Man United at Brentford, and then at GTEC Community Stadium, and then they face Man City the next game? That is, who would have thought? Anyway, let's see how that goes. This game is a test for City's ability to manage psychological fallout of recent setbacks. Erling Haaland, the league's top scorer with 8 goals, faces the challenge of breaching a highly disciplined Brentford low block, likely marshaled by Nathan Collins. The battle will be between City's overwhelming possession and Brentford's disciplined structure and counter-attacking threat, led by informed Igor Thiago and potentially Kevin Schade. If City drops points here, the talk of structural instability will only intensify and potentially continue. Now, let us talk about, to wrap up like the whole match week 7 and everything. There are 3 tactical threads that run through the entire weekend, and they will ultimately decide the table. The first one is basically the midfield engine room duels. Now, the return of Casemiro for Manchester United against Sunderland is the single most critical tactical move of the week. He provides the vital defensive cover needed to stabilize a vulnerable backline and match the physical presence of the distribution quality of Sunderland's Granit Xhaka. Now, the duel alone could save Amorim's job. Similarly, Tyler Adams and Alex Scott their partnership at Bournemouth is the key to maintaining the top 6 fantasy against Fulham. Midfield control is not a luxury this week, and basically, it is necessary for survival. Another thing we can talk about in wrapping this up is the strategic timing of injury management. The management of long-term injury tells a story of strategic foresight. Arsenal and Aston Villa have adapted their system over weeks to account for missing stars like Havertz and Mings, while Villa's 3 clean sheets, despite the key absences, showcases Unai Emery's ability to stabilize results through the system over star power. Now, in contrast, Chelsea's defensive crisis is very acute. It's deep. A sudden convergence of suspensions and injuries on the same match day. This forces Maresca into a predictable, easily targeted formation. The international break is a lifeline for clubs like Chelsea, but they have to survive this match first. Then, if we're talking about FPL and battling and dealing with this, if you're looking for games to watch this weekend, it will be City playing against Brentford. Another game to watch on Saturday would be the Chelsea versus Liverpool, which is the game of the weekend. So Erling Haaland definitely is going to score if you're looking at your FPL and stuff, but that's for another day. Now, to conclude everything, Match Week 7 is said to be one of the most consequential weekends of the Premier League calendar. The title race hangs on whether Liverpool can ruthlessly capitalize on Chelsea's defensive predicament. If they do, then Arsenal must secure a commanding victory over West Ham to be able to keep pace. But the real drama lies in the trenches. Manchester United versus Sunderland is the high leverage moment that will either solidify Sunderland's credentials or plunge Manchester United's hierarchy into deep managerial crisis. For Wolves and West Ham, dropping points now confirms their genuine, terrifying involvement in relegation dogfight. But I think Wolves are going to find a way out. I think West Ham are going to find a way out, potentially Wolves too as well. But West Ham under Nuno Espirito Santo will probably be gelling because they already have 1 week to train ahead of the weekend. Then the international break immediately following the weekend offers struggling clubs like a vital opportunity for a systemic reset. Managers like Amorim, Victor Pereira desperately need this time to re-evaluate fundamental tactics. But for now, every manager is pushing for maximum points, viewing this final block of fixtures as a crucial effort before the guaranteed rest and refinement period. So we're heading for a weekend of chaos, defining moments, and potentially game-changing upsets. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which game are you most excited to see? For me, it's going to be Liverpool Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And do you think also that Ruben Amorim survives a home loss to Sunderland? There's a chance that managerial pressure heats up if Amorim loses. But if Amorim wins, then it extends the rope a little bit over the international break. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Put your comments in the comment section. Your predicted score lines, and do you also let me know in the comment section. Do you think Amorim is going to survive this weekend? If he does, put in a comment. If he doesn't, just say no. Then I will know you're responding to the Amorim one. Let me know in the comment section. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Take care. Goodbye. If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't have to miss anything as it relates to all things football, deep dives, and everything Premier League and La Liga. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye. And God bless.